Welcome to the Gaelan Trombley Show. You can find me on Facebook at Gaelan Trombley, on Instagram at Gaelan Trombley, and on YouTube at Gaelan Trombley. Spelling Gaelantrombley. Enjoy the show. On episode 16 of the Gaelan Trombley Show, I have my good friend Ryan Lee. He is joining me, and we actually had a great conversation. I think we talked basically 2/3 music and 1/3 podcasting, so we had a good time. We also touched on, that was pretty much it, music and podcasting, but we also touched on his new venture, which is Rondack Chairs, and we went in a little bit on a couple other topics, but we had an overall pretty good show. I think you guys will enjoy it. Hope you enjoy episode 16 of the Gaelan Trombley Show. Welcome to the Gaelan Trombley Show. Welcome to episode 16 of the Gaelan Trombley Show. Today, my good friend, fellow localite, I guess, fellow golf fan, just a really good buddy of mine. We actually, I wouldn't say met, I would say reconnected through our wives. So I have, and we'll probably go into that a little bit, but I have in the house Mr. Ryan Lee. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, happy to be here, man.
So, awesome. I've been actually meaning to get Ryan on forever. I don't know how we actually got to episode 16 with just getting you on, but I think you were supposed to be one of my first top 3 to 5 people that I kind of had ready to go, and just things happen, but that's it. That's fine. He's here, graciously accepted to come on.
Graciously.
Exactly. Yeah, I had to really kind of bend his arm and twist him and plead and beg, but he's a good guy, so he decided to come on and support. So for Ryan, for everybody or anybody that does or does not know you, give them a little background, kind of tell them who you are, what you do, where you're from. Give them a little context into Mr. Ryan Lee.
Sure. So professionally, I am a client advisor for Hickok and Boardman Insurance Group. They're currently the largest independent insurance agency in Vermont, but I'm opening up their Plattsburgh office and serving Northern New York commercial business clients. It's been an awesome opportunity for me, and I really enjoy insurance a lot more than I thought I would. I think if you'd asked me that in high school, I would have been like, blah, insurance, that sounds awful, like the last thing I want to do. But I've really learned, I continue to learn about it, and I continue to be a student of my profession, and I'm just nerding out on it now. I really love it. So it's been a really good fit for me. But I guess starting out, I was born in Montana. A lot of people don't know that.
That is a fun fact about you for sure.
Yeah, because most of us in the North Country are born and raised, Plattsburgh or North Country people. But I was born in Montana. My dad was in the Air Force, and so he traveled a lot. He actually lived in Germany with my mom for about 5 years before I was born, which is pretty cool. For a very brief time, we lived in New Jersey. And then because of my dad's Air Force experience, he knew about Plattsburgh and the Air Force Base, so he applied for a job up here, and the rest is history. I grew up most of my memorable life in Plattsburgh, went to Beekmantown Central School, went over to St. Lawrence University for my bachelor's. If you want to talk about college or that later, we can get into that. That was a great experience. And then my first real gig after college was actually not what I went to school for. I went to be a teacher. I had my job picked out. I was going to be a science teacher, biology and chem, and then no teaching jobs were available right when I graduated. It was kind of the worst timing possible. But things happen for a reason, because I was a scout as a kid, and I ended up getting the great honor of being the district executive of the Adirondack region, which was a pretty big job. I definitely wasn't ready for it when I got it, but I grew a lot from that job. Being a nonprofit administrator basically is For those of you out there that do that, it's a tough job. Fundraising, managing a board, membership, all those sorts of things. And of course, you're never rolling in the dough, for resources. So that's pretty much where I'm at now. I did spend a brief period in between my current role and my role with the Boy Scouts, working for ETS staffing. The company was looking to expand into Vermont, and I got the opportunity to be their branch manager and help them do that, which was a pretty exciting opportunity. And my current employer was our landlord, so I sort of, in a way, was recruited away from my recruiting job.
That's good. You took a taste of your own medicine, right?
Yeah, right.
So we kind of back up. We Ryan and I are both the same age, and Ryan's birthday is actually coming up. So if you see him on St. Patty's Day, and I'm sure you're drinking, buy him a beer. So to kind of go back how we actually met, from my memory, at least this is from the memory, then we go back. So we actually met at Buffalo Wild Wings.
This is true. I'm curious what your experience was that day. Yeah.
So my wife and Ryan's wife were co-coaches at the prestigious powerhouse Clinton Community College girls soccer program.
Yeah.
And we ended up, Gina told me one day, she goes, hey, we're going out to dinner with Lauren and her boyfriend at the time. Boyfriend's coming. So I said, okay, cool. I don't know if I think I met Lauren like once or twice. Probably, I don't even know, like picking up Gina or whatever. So I didn't really have any background knowledge of Lauren either. So I remember sitting down, and I think it was right around the Women's World Cup time. So I think it was 2015. So Lauren comes walking in. You come walking in. And it was like one of those instant, like, kind of triggers, and I'm like, I know that guy, but I didn't. I did and I didn't. So I was like, who the heck? And it took us a few minutes, I think, to kind of like figure it out. But we were kind of like, where have I seen you before? And I think we both kind of did that, and I think that was it. And then we were just like, all right, you like beer, I like beer. We're just kind of hang out, and I think the rest is history. We've been we see quite a bit of each other, and we both went to each other's weddings and been to a couple concerts together. We've hit the links a few times golfing, and a lot of other cool things. So I believe, do you want to go farther back still, or do you want?
Well, I guess
give me your
I
story.
remember walking in, and of course I knew Gina through Lauren. Your wife through my wife, and she was always fun, and we used to spend a little time together. We'd meet up for hockey games or something, and all of a sudden I just remember Lauren telling me, hey, we're gonna go get dinner with Gina and her boyfriend. And we're like, oh, she's got a boyfriend. Nice. Okay, good for her. Awesome. And we walk in, and I had a very similar reaction. I looked at it, I was like, who the heck is this guy? I've seen this guy before. I don't know where I know him from. Do I? And immediately, up here, it's like, how do you know most people? It's probably through sports or something, right? So I'm thinking, did I play this guy in hockey? Or
I did the same thing.
Is this guy like...
Well, not hockey, but soccer.
Yeah, is this guy like... Man, I had a lot of enemies on the ice. Am I about to eat Buffalo Wild Wings?
I was definitely the big defender, for sure.
I'm like, did this guy piss me off at one time? Or were we friends? How do I know this guy? And then, of course, we learn it has nothing to do with sports.
No. I'll let you tell them where we actually, I guess, met.
Nothing to do with sports.
Far from it.
Two things. Yeah. So bizarre. So I'm a big music guy. Always been in music my entire life since I could be in band in elementary school, and probably since third grade, I think, when they have everybody learn recorder or something. I've always loved music. Runs in my family big time, and so for probably 3 or 4 years, I'd say, in a row, my dad and I were in the orchestra for Shazy Music Theater, and this is the big time for the North Country, at least back then. This was like,
Very well produced.
Yeah, there was just sold out, several days every year, big name shows, Beauty and the Beast, Seussical,
Chicago.
Oh yeah,
West Side Story.
This was a gem for the North Country, and it was an honor to be a part of it. But I was in the pit playing percussion and drums with my dad, and at one point I did play trumpet too. And you, Gaelan, were up in black, like a stage guy, moving all the sets and like supposed to be invisible.
And to clarify, I was on stage, but I never sang, danced, or did anything. I was off on the wing. So if you saw me, you probably shouldn't have, because it should have been dark. But but yeah, I was the backstage moving crew basically for sets. So
well, that whole group, like Shazy Music Theater, from musicians to director to stagehand to actors, actresses, whatever, it did become like a kind of like a mini family for the season. People come and go. Not everybody comes back every year. Like obviously, I was only there for a few years, but you get to know everybody that way. It becomes a pretty cool experience. That's the only time I've ever been, I would say, a professional musician. I got paid for my
for your beats.
Yeah. Other than that, I've never been good enough to be paid for it.
How many did you do? Do you remember, show wise?
I did.
And what years were they? Were they high school, college? Probably more high school.
I was high school. And
do you remember which ones they were?
Let's see. Hello, Dolly. I think I helped with Seussical.
Okay.
That was like a off one.
That was first one I did.
And then there was I didn't do Aida, but my dad was in that one. And then I did. I think my first real full-fledged one was Hello, Dolly, and then I did. There was The King and I.
Yep.
Beauty and the Beast.
You did that one too?
Yeah.
Was it over your spring break? Was that why?
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because
I think I was in college. I was a freshman.
Yeah.
For Beauty and the Beast,
that
and I remember going to like the music, department at the college and practicing my parts because, that was a complicated one from a music standpoint.
That's what I remember because my first one was, so I did it for I think 10 years, which is crazy to think about because time flies when you start.
Look at you.
I know. It was, but I went from, I think my first one was Seussical, which I think we were probably freshmen, so probably like 2005 maybe.
Probably. Yeah.
Right about there. So that the timeline I think matches up. So you were in high school, so I did it all the way through college. I mean, I stayed local at Plattsburgh, so for me it was a couple of nights. So for probably 2 weeks, probably went in. 6 days a week for 2 weeks, maybe 13 out of 14 days. So it was just kind of really crammed into 1 week or 1 2 week stretch. But people were great, very professionally done. I mean, I would say in this area, by far the leader in community theater. I think I didn't really go to a lot, but from what people told me, and at least for the feel of it, was very professionally done. But that was funny. So without getting too much into that, we met. Indirectly, I don't even know if I talked to you. I mean, maybe I did, like off, maybe kind of in passing kind of thing. But I just think we were kind of in your group. I was in my group because we were, you're just doing your part. So it's not like you're really mingling too much with people. Like we weren't with like the makeup people. We weren't with the light people. We weren't with
And I think the people who were more in the acting production side had a lot longer road. Through it because
it was like 4 months. Or so.
And like
we came in
the musicians.
Very end.
The musicians are like, it's like here's your music 4 months out, and then show up like the week before and just know your shit or you're fired.
They gave you the music that far in advance?
Maybe not actually. I
wasn't sure because I know you guys came in. It's
very last minute, and like honestly. It was primarily music teachers, people who had the chops to do that, right? To get music, sight read it, and then a month later have it perfect. That was definitely not me. I remember having to practice a lot.
Well, I think at least through most of it, like I was surprised we'd come in like 2 weeks before opening night, not even that, like a week and a half, and you'd always kind of come in and you're literally seeing the play for the first time, and you have somebody. We usually had like one backstage person that would kind of have an understanding of what was going on, and then they would just be like, all right, this is what we're doing. This piece kind of goes out here, and they're like, okay, and then we'll practice a scene, put stuff out, ask the director, is this good? They'd be like, yep. So we mark everything down, time it, page it. Basically, it was a lot of logistics, and what I remember the most about it, and I kind of prided myself on this as I got a little more into it and kind of really understood it, was you obviously see like the going out and coming on part. There's a timing to it because you only have so much. A lot of it's to music. It's not like you guys play any slower. So for the most part, you pretty much have a small window of opportunity. It's almost like a pit crew in NASCAR. It's like you go in, go out, you pull the stuff that's out, put the stuff that's out or on the side on. Lights come up, action, next scene. But then it's like, while the play is going on, we're in the back like playing Tetris basically with pieces because it's only so big back there. So you're pulling stuff out in the hallway, you're bringing stuff in, you're spinning stuff, you're lifting stuff, you're moving stuff, you're basically getting things organized. So it usually just started as like a complete shit show at the beginning because everything's kind of ready to go, and then you could slowly kind of start pushing stuff out in the hallway as the play would progress. So towards the end, usually it was a lot more room back there, a little more room to breathe. But the first 4, 5, 6 scenes, it was havoc back there and then you have actors and actresses walking in and out, and you're trying to do your best to obviously respect their space, and then they're trying to do the best to respect your space because it's a confined area on the wings of the stage. But overall, a pretty positive experience. Met some cool people through it. Very talented people.
I remember for Beauty and the Beast, probably one of the most impressive like stage crew contraptions I've ever seen for live theater, at least locally, not professional Broadway. I mean, this was cool. But for Beauty and the Beast, you know how throughout the movie there's rose petals.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
You know what I'm talking about. You know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
This was engineering in its finest. So throughout the show, the rose petals keep falling off, and they're like, oh boy, we're racing against the rose to, change the beast back into his prince form or whatever. And they had attached like fishing line or something. I feel like I remember the guy telling me exactly how he built it, but they hooked fishing line to each up through the stem and onto each petal, and then as they would fall, they'd fall free as if there was nothing attached to them. And then when the rose comes back together at the very end of the movie or in the show, I don't know how he did it, but a remote control like sucks them all back up into the shape of the rose, and every single time it just blew my mind. Yeah,
that's funny. The reason I do remember that, I remember whoever it was, explaining it to same thing, kind of like how they did it. But I was always on that side of the stage, so I never actually saw it live. So if you think about it, I went 10 years at this play, never watching the play from the front. Every once in a while, like maybe it was the last scene of the act, we had everything set up, and it was the last, usually the scene before intermission is kind of a big scene. So we'd always set up, and usually those are kind of the more memorable, the big action, the good music, the dancing, everybody's on stage. So we would set stuff up, and a lot of times we'd sneak back up from the back of the stage all the way to the back of the auditorium to watch the last scene. And that was pretty much my experience of all Shazy Music Theater for 10 years. So a full decade of basically watching it from 1 or 2 scenes a night from the back. A lot of the scenes I didn't see. Anything that was on our side of the wing up front, I never saw. I would always see the one on the other side, but you're really limited, and you're always seeing people from the side angle through curtains. So it really, you didn't get the full like depth or breadth of what it was going on because you saw it from such a limited perspective. So that was kind of cool because to be honest, I never actually saw it. I heard about it because people were like raved about this engineering feat, and but I never actually saw it live. So
yeah,
I wish I would have, because that would have been pretty cool.
It's like Elon Musk put it together or something
through those tunnels.
Yeah,
through that boring company. But yeah, no, Shazy Music Theater was good. So that's how Ryan and I came to know each other, and then reconnected. God, 10 years later.
Crazy.
Maybe not 10 years, but close. 8 years or so. So That was good. Yeah. No, that was really cool. No, just kind of like I said, that brings back a lot of cool memories because like a lot of stuff like when you go through or high school and college, you have very distinct memories because it translates to memories of like. That's why I'm very good date wise when it comes from anytime I was in school because I can know like okay I was in that grade which triggers this memory which triggers this whatever. So I always have a good timeline up till probably like midway through college and then things kind of really. Basically, once I hit like 2021, things just really kind of blended together. Like now, I forget dates, I forget when I met people, when I did stuff. But high school, like I knew almost like when music comes on, and I'm like, that was 2005. And like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I was in ninth grade, and I just remember the song playing on the radio, or I remember it at a school dance, or I remember it at a talent show, or it was funny the other day. I was driving home, and Gina's car has XM.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 songs in a row. They were doing 2007 top 40 hits or something. 3 songs in a row were 3 of the songs that were our basketball playlists. And I literally sat in the car and listened to all 3 of them. And it was amazing. And then John Mayer's Your Body's a Wonderland came on. And I just went, which is fine. I like John Mayer, but it killed the vibe. So I shut the car off and went in. But it was like 3 like rap songs that you I guarantee you have not heard since 2007. And they were in the top 40. I think they were like 15, 16, 17. I listened to them like, this really brings back some good memories. So music has a tendency to do that.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. Music definitely has a way to take you back to certain memories, and regardless of how good your memory is, certain songs will trigger something for everybody. On the John Mayer point, Lauren and I saw John Mayer in the Bell Center a few years ago when he released one of his newer albums, and he played Your Body is a Wonderland, but he went through this whole speech before he played it about how sometimes when you are successful in music, you have one song that is he didn't use this phrase, but basically like the death of you, like he's like, but you play it so much, he's like, he gets so sick of it, and he's like, but I'm pretty rich because of it.
I always think...
I'm like, that's true. And he's like, so I'll play it for you now, but I haven't played this song live in like 8 years or something.
Really? Yeah. I believe it too, because some of those...
You just get sick of it, I'm sure,
I was listening to something the other day, like if you take... Who was it? I think they were talking about like the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones, or take Elton John, who's on like his farewell tour. They've been playing these songs for like 50 years. And the thing is, like, no offense, Rolling Stones, Elton John, Billy Joel, nobody wants to hear a song that you came up with in 2018. They want the 1968, 78, 85 version of whatever. Like, they want to hear you say Rocket Man, not some random song that you just came up with.
Yeah.
It's probably phenomenal, but they want to hear the hits. So, like, you get to the point where you're like, I think once you hit that age and you're kind of past the point of really coming out with new records, even though you kind of are, everybody's like, I just want your greatest hits of your first 10 years. Like, I listened to, I watched a special on Steven Tyler of Aerosmith, who were my favorite band when I turned 10. My mom, I don't know a lot of 80s music, but I know a heck of a lot of 60s and 70s.
You're a big Billy Joel and Elton John guy.
Love them both.
Yeah.
Which I know they went a little bit into the 80s and stuff, but if you take, like, I know a lot of music from the 60s and 70s because that's what I grew up with listening to because my mom listened on the radio. So my son is, fortunately for us, maybe unfortunately for him, is going to know a lot of 90s and early 2000s because that was just the music we grew up with in junior high, high school, elementary, whatever. So I just find myself acting like, I was always like, why do you guys, like my parents, like, why do you guys listen to the 70s? It's 98 or 2005 or why, like, but I've fallen in the same realm where if you go on my phone or go to my Apple Music account, I would say the average age for a song on there is probably like 2000. And it's all the music I listen to. I don't know.
90s music was great, man.
Yeah. And I listen to music now, like top hits. Like every once in a while, Jordan will come in. Like, Jordan, what do you want to listen to? And she's like, I don't know, today's hit music or whatever. So I put it on. I don't know any of those songs. I don't even know the artist. I'm like, who? And every once in a while, you get like one that pops up, like a Taylor Swift. I'm like, at least I've heard of her. There's people I've never even heard of. And then I'm like, Cancel Back, put on like Dispatch or Dave or OAR or something that I grew up listening to. So have you fallen into that?
Yes.
I guess I say
absolutely.
trap, but have you fallen into that just natural progression?
Yes. I think my music taste definitely, it's comparable to yours. I very much love the 80s, 70s, 90s are great. And then we hit this this shift in music where it became a lot more digital versus instrumental. And not that, the talent isn't there. There's certainly, it's just a different leverage of talent, and creativity. But for me, I like listening to someone on a guitar play a really complicated lick. I mean, that's why I love Dave Matthews. I'm a huge, everybody who knows me, I'm a huge Dave Matthews Band fan. And I think
we just went this past December
or
something, November.
Phenomenal. And I've been to so many shows, but what I love about that band is they are all instrumentalists. They're not necessarily, a bunch of lyrical geniuses, or Dave's not necessarily. Dave's got some cool lyrics, but like what really
a lot
makes
of spacey lyrics.
Well, yeah, he's if you actually listen and break down his lyrics, they make you go places. You're like, whoa, what was he thinking that day? But if you listen to their music, man, that's a well-oiled machine. That's just beautiful to me.
I think we would both agree. What's funny is I think we sat there and we could almost tell which songs were coming on just by like kind of the, we were trying to almost get, it was like guess.
That's when you start nerding out. When you're a real fan, when you can hear their little teaser in the beginning of a live show and you're like, oh, yep, that's that one. Yep.
Or you can't think of the name of the song, but you know every lyric to the song.
That too.
We're just sitting there like, what's this? And they're playing it in your head. But I probably could answer this for you, and I think we probably both agree. Who's your favorite band member? Just pure musical wise. I think we're both the same.
Oh.
Out of that band.
Okay.
Out of that band.
Okay.
Not overall. That's difficult.
Carter?
Yeah, 100%.
Carter Beauford. Yeah.
100%.
I have a Carter Beauford stick.
Which is so
that
cool.
I caught. And
Carter's the drummer if you don't.
I have a photo with Carter.
I didn't know that.
I met Carter before. Yeah.
This was the same time as the stick incident or no?
Nope, different time.
Did you go to SPAC and see him?
Yep. So my best friend and roommate in college is from the Albany area.
He'd be great on this.
Oh yeah, he'd be great. He'd be phenomenal. Jay Condi. He is an interesting dude, and he's become even more interesting as age it happens. But anyhow, so I mean, cool Carter story. That dude is sweet. So my roommate and best friend at the time, best man in my wedding, and his dad owns a painting and construction business down in the Albany region, and because of that and his connections, he always was able to get really good, close tickets for the shows at SPAC, and was able to kind of get us pretty good hotels to stay and be safe, after a show. And we ended up, long story short, coming back from one of the DMB shows, and we're standing in the parking lot, and we're like looking around, and we're like, what the heck? There's a lot of people here. What the heck's going on at our hotel? This is a nice hotel, but I mean, I guess I didn't think it was that nice. I mean, I'm not uppity or anything, but like I've stayed in some real nice hotels, and I thought this was a nice one, but not like I would have just expected the band maybe to have like the hotel in Saratoga, and we were definitely not there. But all of a sudden these big coach buses start showing up, and all these people are waiting. We're like, what the heck is going on? Dude, this is kind of exciting. Like, is this are they staying at the hotel? Are they here with us? And Boyd Tinsley, the violinist, pops out of his trailer or out of his RV or whatever, and quickly goes inside. Like, nope, I'm not, I don't have time, I'm too tired kind of thing, and goes inside. Stefan Lessard pops out. He's the bassist, pops out, walks in, kind of same thing, shakes some hands, kisses some babies, that kind of thing, and kind of gets out pretty quick. Another bus comes by. Carter pops out. He's like, hey, everybody, calm down. I will stop and say hi to everybody. You guys are the fans. Like, I value, I'm going to stay and talk to every single one of you. And we're like, holy shit, this is sweet. So this was before, like, we had smartphones. Like, I think I had a real crappy, like, flip phone, and you wouldn't want to take a picture on that. Mm-hmm. But I had a digital camera up in the hotel room. So my friend Jay's like, dude, run up and get the camera. So I sprint into the hotel, up the hotel stairs because the elevator was busy, and went up 4 flights of stairs, went in the hotel room, got the digital camera, this big boxy thing, they used to be, and then ran back all the way down, got down to my buddies, and we took a picture with Carter.
That's awesome.
And he talked to us for a few minutes and asked us how we liked the show and stuff, and I still have it. It's on my Facebook, actually.
Oh, really? I gotta look it up. He just seems like a good dude. The one thing is he's always smiling. Always.
You can tell that dude made it in his dream job.
100%.
He's a lot older than people think he is. He's
pushing 60.
Yes, exactly.
And
doesn't show it, though.
Not even remotely close. And the funny thing is, I would say, I think, we're nerding out here, but we're both big Dave Matthews Band fans, but I really think that I would call like the captain of the team kind of thing, because I think all the energy comes out of him, and he's almost like, I kind of think of him like if the band was an octopus, he would be the body, mm-hmm. and everybody's the tentacles that are the mm-hmm. legs, and he just kind of like exude, like pushing out all the energy out, and everybody's feeding off. Obviously, they feed off each other, but I really think that he's like the point guard of the basketball team. Like, he's really calling the shots.
Dave might be the clownfish that can't figure out what the hell he's doing.
Exactly. And Carter's the old turtle that's just like floating through the water. But if you want to treat yourself to a good one of my favorite Carter moments, if you go this year, 2018 SPAC, when they were at like in June, the same year we saw them last year, mm-hmm. they performed SPAC. The last song, which is funny, is a crowd starts chanting two-step. Usually bands, they just do whatever's on the set list.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had it on the set list, but it sounded pretty much like they all kind of like paused before and were kind of like looking around. The crowd was just chanting, and then all of a sudden they just started strumming. And they started playing the song. It was 18 minutes long, and the last 8 minutes is Carter going off on the drums. Granted, almost 60 years old, and you're watching this guy go, probably the greatest solo. They have a live stream on YouTube. Go find it. Go all the way to the very end. Watch two-step and just watch that whole performance. And you just want to sit there and just keep rewatching Carter.
Did you see that live?
I wish I did. I did not.
Oh, okay.
I did not. No, I lied. Actually, I was not there. But they've done live streams. They've started to do live streams
this past summer.
That was the one at SPAC. So I don't know if you watched it or not. Me and Gina sat at home. Her brother was actually at the concert, and we're like, we wish we would have went. But then all of a sudden we found out that they were doing a live stream. We sat in our living room at 8:00. Came on. We had it put on the TV. We literally watched the entire show. And I thought this was going to be like a camera set deep back, and they just had one view, and you're kind of whatever.
No, it was really good footage.
It was. I mean, as close as you could get. They had guys right up in front of them, and
it's almost like, why buy the ticket? I mean, in some regard, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, without getting the secondhand smoke and all the good drinks and stuff like that, and crowd jumping around, but it was very well done, and we literally just sat there and listened. We watched the 3-hour concert, mm-hmm. and amazing. And the last was funny is I remember listening to it probably because it got late and I was kind of tired. I didn't enjoy, I didn't recognize how good that was, and I went back randomly one day and just kind of was clipping through it, just I wonder. I think it was leading up to the concert we went to, and I rewatched Two-Step at the end. Incredible. So do yourself a favor if you're bored.
No, I will.
Go right to the end. I mean, obviously the whole concert, but just go to the very end, just watch it. I think it's an 18-minute version, and Carter is incredible that whole time. The thing is, too, when he's drumming, he's flipping his sticks. You ever see that?
Oh, yeah. He's nuts, dude. He's nuts.
But
a lot of pit drummers don't realize this, but most people are right-handed. But whatever their dominant hand is, most drummers do a cross-hand move. So like what I mean by that is like I'm right-handed, so I would hit my hi-hat with my right hand, but the hi-hat is usually to your left. So I would cross my right hand over my left hand to do that, and that's usually it keeps
it's natural.
That's home base. Hi-hat's the home base, right? It's like
and
usually
that's your high cymbal.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least especially for the way Carter has his kit set up. And then you have your snare drum, which is the core beat, with your left hand, right? So you see drummers doing that a lot. They kind of have this cross hand move. And then you play, the bass drum with your feet, your right foot, or if you're doing a double bass pedal, kind of like what he's got, you do both feet sometimes. And yeah, at one point in time, I had a double bass pedal, and I was doing okay, but never even breaching, his level. But what makes Carter really phenomenal is he plays an open hand method, which basically means instead of I'm pretty sure he's right-handed dude, but instead of playing with his hands crossed and his right hand doing the hi-hat or cymbal work, primarily cymbal work, right? He's doing that with his left hand. And then he's hitting the snare with his right. But what this does is he's now got his hands in a position where he literally can like move left, right, and he's never crossed up. Whereas a lot of drummers, including myself, you are limited once you learn how to play drums cross-handed, which is the majority way to do it. But he's playing open, so he can switch. If he wants the sound of a different cymbal, he can switch and all of a sudden make his right hand the hi-hat cymbal, purposed hand, but he's doing it on the right side now, and then he's playing the snare drum with his left hand. But then he can switch and go back, and now he's playing the snare drum with his right hand and the hi-hat on his left. And that's just like, I'm sure it sounds complicated, but if you were to literally just sit at home or wherever you are right now listening, or you right now, if we were to do a little experiment and you were to try and just like, you can hear that I'm doing with my right hand, and then that louder is my left hand, right, for the people listening. But then for me to just like automatically switch and try and do that opposite all of a sudden, there's no way I can do that. Carter does that every single day. In a much more complicated fashion, of course, than what I just did. But it's
pretty incredible.
That's a level of detail that people don't even understand.
Well, I've talked to some people that are drummers, and all of them say he's one of the best, if not best, drummers that they've ever seen. The guy
I can think of is Neil Peart from Rush.
I've never seen him.
He's
like I know Rush, but I've never seen him.
He's filthy. He's filthy good. I think Carter's more experimental, kind of like raw talent,
improvising,
and I think Neil Peart is the guy that if you want to be a phenomenal like technique and rudiment guy, like drum line, snare drum skills, and like really just be as tight as possible and read me, like Neil Peart's your guy. But if you are curious, look at I think. So Neil Peart's got this drum set that goes a big circle all the way around him. We're really going into a tangent here. Aren't we?
That's fine. I love it.
He's got this drum set that is literally an entire circle all the way around him. And he's got a couple different thrones, like the seat that he sits on. And he can switch throughout the show, jump from one seat to the next in his drum set. And his stage rotates, like underneath him, depending on which one he's playing. So he's facing the crowd. But there's a drum solo that he does periodically throughout their shows that is like, I'd be hard pressed to say that even Carter could do it. Like
really?
This thing is filthy good.
What's his name?
Neil Peart.
You know how to spell Peart?
Peart. Peart. I think so. Yeah.
I'm gonna look him up.
From Rush, and that's a 3-man band. They're generating
Canadian
just as much sound as Dave Matthews Band with 3 dudes. Geddy Lee, the bassist, is playing like keyboards with his feet, and he's playing bass too, and he's singing. Their guitarist is filthy. I forgot his name in the moment, and then Neil Peart, man, that dude, he's got like this like synthesizer, like keyboard thing that he plays with his sticks, and so he can actually play like melodies while he's playing drums. Carter's one of the best, but this dude,
I gotta check him out
is nuts.
I went to. I can tell you good stories about this, but 2009, I think I was a freshman in college. We went to Albany to watch the Grateful Dead, which was a band I grew up on. Deadhead.
Nice.
You wouldn't think it, but I got a lot of hippie.
They're gonna come up with a name like that for us Dave Matthews Band fans. You know,
I'm surprised they don't.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I'm surprised they don't. But I enjoy
Dave Dorks.
That we would both be classified as that 100%. I went to the Grateful Dead, which again, kind of a band I grew up listening to and still listen to and still like their spacey, jammy stuff. They have 2 drummers. And the concert I went to, which I think is a typical Grateful Dead concert, they played 15 songs over 4 hours. And a lot of what they call space, which is just jamming. They had one section, I think the second part, or the second towards the end of the show, probably 2/3 of the show, they had a drum solo. And it was just the 2 guys drumming. One guy was drumming, then one guy was kind of on these big drums that he was smashing almost, not a gong or like a tambourine, but I don't know what they were.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember you were your heart was pound, or your chest was pounding because whatever they had for the sound going on, literally the whole place was just vibrating. These guys are just smashing drums, and they did it for 8-10 minutes.
Wow.
A drum solo. I mean, they are notorious for the jam band, but they it was Mickey Hart, and I was thinking about this the other day, Bill Kreutzmann, I probably butchered his last name, but I believe the original drummers, and they just were ripping on these things. So that was an experience, but that was the first time I ever saw 2 drummers. I mean, I knew they had 2 drummers, but the first time, I actually saw 2 drummers, and not like a drummer and like a percussionist on the side, like legit. They were both drummers. They were both like side by side the whole show. Obviously, probably playing different parts and stuff, but it was just kind of funny because you don't think of the Grateful Dead as being like this high drum percussion type sound, but that was a very cool experience. I want to go back and see him. I haven't seen him since, which is terrible. It's been 10 years, but they're starting to tour more, and John Mayer's with them now.
Yes, I was going to say, it's like Dead and Company.
Dead and Company. Yeah, and when I went and saw him back in 2009, they were just called The Dead. I think they stopped touring as the Grateful Dead when Jerry died, and then which was I think like the mid '90s. Yep. And then you had Bob Weir, you had Phil Lesh, you had Mickey, you had Phil. Warren Haynes actually came out from the Allman Brothers, and he came out and played Jerry's part, which is now basically Mayer plays. But they were the Dead at the time, and now they are Dead and Company, which is John Mayer, and they got a couple other guys too. There's I don't know if he's the bassist or the keyboard. I don't know if Phil Lesh is touring with them right now, which he's the bassist, but they basically he's played, and I've heard only great things about him because obviously he's a phenomenal guitarist, but I've heard like interviews and stuff, and he was like anybody else, grew up kind of listening to that music and has a deep respect for the band, and is not one to kind of just jump in and do his own thing. He's really kind of immersed himself in the culture and the band of just, hey, this is the sound. I have freedom to do my thing, but I'm going to do it within their, I guess, kind of realm
fit into their box.
Yeah, like I'm not going to turn it into your body's a wonderland.
Yeah, it's not the John Mayer show anymore.
No.
There's an interview that I saw with Eric Clapton talking about John Mayer, and I hold Eric Clapton in the top 5, top 10 maybe of best guitarists ever, and he said that I forget exactly how he phrased it, but he basically said that John Mayer is like a guitar genius.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
I think
John Mayer is, especially when he was really famous, maybe 10 years ago, he was kind of an asshole. But I think he's gone through this phase where he's like trying at least to be a little more humble. And I think to your point about the Dead and Company, I think that's a big statement from John Mayer to put the John Mayer thing aside and do something as part of a team and be part of that project rather than his own fame.
Where I would say you're amongst the Deadheads. He's a second class citizen kind of in that band, because like, no offense, like you're great and all, but they're going to see Bob, they're going to see Phil. You know, they're seeing the original guys that are still kicking. You know, they're doing it.
I think he recognizes that though.
Yeah, no, I think so, and I've heard some really good things. I want to go, but it's like it's just one of those things. Part of it is I just need someone to go with. That's the first hurdles. I don't want to go to a concert by myself. So if you ever want to go to a Dead concert, let me know. But I think that would be fun. It's always cool to go back and see the older bands. I think the two we've been to bring back our 2000s is the Goo Goo Dolls.
Oh yeah, we did go to Goo Goo Dolls. That was great.
Goo Goo Dolls and then Dave. I remember going to the Goo Goo Dolls was me, you, and our wives, and it was like a Sunday night. It was kind of bad weather.
Very last minute,
and we ended up going down, and it was like I've been to a concert at SPAC, like a country concert or a Dave concert where it's sold out, like just packed with people. This was about as bare as you could get, I thought, for a SPAC concert. Mm-hmm. You could turn back, you basically could turn around, and it looked like you were sitting outside Memorial, you know, up on the monument on the hill there, like watching the Mayor's Cup or something.
You could see the grass, which
has
never happened.
Ton of grass, but granted, it was Sunday night. The weather wasn't great. The set was very stripped down from what I remember. Mm-hmm. I don't think they had any lights. They had it was just the three guys. Phenomenal concert. They went and just jammed out, and a lot of good. I mean, Goo Goo Dolls. Again, another band I just grew up listening to a lot, and they had a couple other Collective Soul.
That's who it was. I was gonna say.
Yeah, which again, they have a couple of hits, you know. And
I forgot what the hits were, but when they started playing, I was like,
December's one, and there's another good one.
It's like, Lauren, you recognize these guys? She's like, no. Never heard this before. And then they, of course, their last couple songs, they play the hits. And then she's like, oh, yeah, I've heard them before.
Yeah. But, no, that was kind of cool. I think those are kind of going back to, like, I've always wanted to see Aerosmith tour, because that was, like, I'm not joking. I had I had probably 80% of their CDs growing up, listened to all their songs, actually put them on the other day as an Apple Music playlist, like the essential, and, like, first one was Toys in the Attic. And I was like, I haven't heard this song in 10, 15 years. Amazing. And, of course, I, knew all the words to it. Like, for some reason, lyrics don't really escape you. They just kind of come back like riding a bike. But are there any music, what would be your top 1, 2 to 5 people that you would want to listen to? If you get, concerts that maybe you've never been to that you've always wanted to go see.
For a long time, this is probably not top 3, but just I think it was important to mention Steve Miller Band.
That'd been a great show.
Yeah, so Lauren's best friend and roommate from college lives out in lives in Syracuse now, but is from Watertown, and they invited us out to Watertown for this concert. And they're like, oh yeah, a bunch of cool bands are playing. I don't remember. They probably told us Steve Miller was playing, but for whatever reason, I never really thought about it. And then we got there, and he started playing, all the hits, right? And just to hear somebody like that just crush their hits and how old he is, that was pretty freaking cool. So I have a lot of respect for Steve Miller Band now after seeing him live. But I think one that I really wish I could have seen the trio together is the Police. I saw my dad. Yeah. My dad got tickets to SPAC to go see Sting a couple years ago. Phenomenal, dude's really, really.
Did you go too?
I went with him. Yeah. But I think there was something really special about the Police.
I mean, I know Roxanne. I mean, I know some of the music, but that wasn't a big one for me. But you can keep going.
Man. See, I feel
Did you grow up listening to that a lot?
I feel like Roxanne isn't their
Message in a Bottle. What was that?
Yeah.
SOS or whatever.
Every Breath You Take.
I mean, they
Don't
definitely
Stand So Close to Me.
they had a lot of no, I agree. They had some
Right. They had a lot. Like, if you listen to the top essentials of the Police, most people are like, "Oh yeah, shit, that's a Police song. I like that song a lot. Oh shit, that song's really good too." But people think at first Roxanne, but those guys. I don't know. They broke up way too early. There was a lot more potential there, but egos,
I think
I don't know what my other ones would be. I mean, I really like Dave Matthews Band. I don't know. That's a really hard question. You know who would be really cool? I feel like just because of his vibe would be Jack Johnson. I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
Fun fact about him: I've seen him more in concert than any person I've ever been to.
Is it good?
Phenomenal. Yeah,
really?
And I know he's kind of like jam bandy. Everybody's like, he's kind of laid back. He is. Again, another guy. I've probably listened to more of his songs over hours than any other music. I used like high school, college. I would just work and do homework and do whatever to his music, just because it was like white noise to me. And I don't listen to it as much now as I used to. But the first time I ever saw him was actually, we went out to Mansfield, 2008. I got it for like a graduation gift. And this was up to the point where he never really toured. He lives in California / Hawaii. So
he's just a surfer.
Yeah, he was a professional surfer before he got into music. And he did a lot of surf films. I know a lot about Jack Johnson, but he ended up going to, I think, like UC Berkeley for film. And very good. He did some surf films and did some music. And I think his original album, God, I can't believe I'm having a hard time. Not on and on. Oh my God. Whatever. His first album. And he basically was doing like surf films, and then he kind of started to get popular. And then when he had In Between Dreams, which was kind of like his iconic yellow album with the Hawaiian tree, and when that one came out, which to me is basically almost like his greatest hits album, obviously there's a lot of other good songs, but that you cover, it's kind of like Dave's Under the Table and Dreaming album. Like 10 out of the 12 are like instant classics. And I remember listening to him, and I was like so pumped, and I didn't know he was touring. My sister found out about it, so they surprised me with tickets, and I was so pumped. We ended up sitting, like, we were dead center, about 10 rows behind the pit. First time I ever saw him, and it was amazing. And obviously, like, his music's a little laid back on the album, but he picks it up at the concert.
He changes it up.
Yeah, so there's a lot more to it. I met his drummer.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So I got a picture with him, which obviously he's not if you ever watch him play, he's very much just kind of like keep the beat. He's not Carter, but so that was really cool. And Jack, to put it in perspective, I've seen him probably 5 or 6 times. I actually saw him one time at a festival, and we went out to see him in Boston, just outside Boston. And he actually went into like this little coffee tent they had set up, and his keyboardist, Zach Gill, was playing like his own little thing, and he has a couple good songs too that I like, so we went in to watch him. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking over, and he's got this guitar, and again, like I said, I used to know a lot more, and I'm kind of escaping me. It was basically a Hawaiian guitar that he was very famous. Cole Clark might have been the brand name. It was a very authentic kind of like guitar that not a lot of people played, but he always played it. So I'm looking at it, and I remember turning, and I was like, Jack's coming. Like, it wasn't saying anything because he was supposed to play like in 2 hours. Sure enough, he comes walking out and plays 2 or 3 songs with Zach, and he was 30 feet away from me, just sitting there. We were in a place with about 50 to 80 people.
Small tent, yeah.
And it was just kind of popped up into this little tent. They were just kind of doing like, they called it like coffee house. That's what they call it, the coffee house. But it was like a bunch of people because it was like a festival, so you'd have like people come play that you didn't really, they're obviously good musicians. I didn't know who they were. And then he came on, so I'm like, well, I want to go see him. He's in Jack's band, just see him by himself. And all of a sudden, Jack came and played a couple songs with him, which was really cool. And I had so that was probably the closest we ever got to him. But I've seen him a few times, and the funny thing to show how laid back he is two things that I really remember most about his concerts were, one, I saw him in 2008, and I think I saw him in 2010, and I think I saw him in like 2012 or 14. He wore the same T-shirt like 3 different times. So you talk about like these guys that like get in, they have all these flashy things. He shows up, he's wearing Birkenstock sandals.
Yeah.
He's wearing like the total Jack Johnson vibe, like you'd expect. He's got Birkenstock sandals, he's got jeans on, and he's got a T-shirt on. And he comes out and he's just kind of slapping away, bobbing. Amazing voice. Like his voice is, he's got one of those guys that just has like that real, just like pure voice. And you hear him in real life, and you take like kind of like that, just that like kind of easygoing just sound that he has on the album, and you put it onto real life, like in real life, but live. Amazing. Like the guy has such like a buttery smooth voice, and it's just so funny to watch him because he's so laid back. So the first thing I remember of him was, I'll say actually 3 things. Was that, so he's wearing a T-shirt 2 years later, 4 years later. You're talking like a guy that probably does not care about money. You know, he's just laid back. He's like, looks like a beach bum, goes out and plays. All the guys in the band are super laid back, very stripped down. He's got a lot of artists that will play and kind of come and play with him. And then when you go to his shows, he's got all these, he's very big in like environmental green initiative, like saving the planet, no plastic, or get rid of like you know, recycling and things like that. So he's always got these things set up where it's like, hey, we got free water stations, we got free this, we have, you know, everything that's very much like green, bio, or recyclable and things like that. He's very big into that. But when you go there, you like felt that vibe that he was really pushing, you know, kind of a green initiatives in wherever he went, and kind of tried to leave his footprint in a good way, not in a bad way. And then the third thing is we're back again at Mansfield. I think I've seen him 2 or 3 times there. And they had a car accident on the highway, and he kind of caught wind of it. So we started playing, and he was like, he kind of came up at the end as he was kind of getting, he had played about 2 hours at this point, and it was kind of the end. He goes, yeah, he goes, we and he sounds very Hawaiian, and he's like, we heard there was like a car accident, and there was, obviously some casualties and stuff, and and it was very like sympathetic. And then he goes, well, I know a lot of people were late to come to the show, and he goes, we've kind of been asking throughout the concert, like the people in the back, can people stay a little later? Because you're talking now the staff that's working this event, can they stay a little later? He played another 45 minutes and just like got up and just started jamming, because for them,
class act.
Yeah, he was just like, hey, they missed an hour, 45 minutes. He basically, whatever they missed, he basically replayed it at the end. So he played probably 2 hours and 45 minutes to 3 hours, which for him, he doesn't have a lot of songs. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is awesome, because he just played, the ones that you thought he would play. Then every once in a while, you throw in the ones that you haven't heard ever live, and you're like, holy crap. Then he's like, well, at one point he's like, I actually I wrote this song about Willie Nelson. We were at Farm Aid one time, and I think he said The Time I Got Drunk with Willie Nelson was the name of the song. And he actually had a full song about how he got drunk with Willie Nelson. And it's just like this random song that he had come up with, probably has never sung it live. And he was just like kind of like coming out with like, well, all right. And he just started jamming to a song, because he was basically, there was no set list at that point. He was just coming up with stuff.
He's just helping the fans out.
And it was incredible. Yeah. And but I think that's just he's like kind of the guy that I would love to go see him perform in Hawaii. That's like the coolest thing if I could ever go.
That'd be the dream. That's the ultimate package.
Because he has one every year he plays out there, like this big festival.
Okay. And
I think it's for like Hawaiian school kids or something. But it's just as he brings, like Dave's played at it before, and he brings in these other acts. But if you can ever go watch a Jack Johnson concert, I know it's kind of like a real laid back kind of thing, but there's some good. He's great. Like I would never turn down to go watch him in concert live.
All right. It's a date.
So perfect. I'll let you know next time he plays. I think my without getting, like, obviously got long winded there, but the Aerosmith will be in my top.
Okay.
One of them.
Yep.
Elton John and Billy Joel. Have not seen them. We'll never see Elton John. This is his last concert, is what it is. But
oh, man, that's end of an era.
Yeah, but that would have been one I really would have liked to have seen. Billy Joel, man, to be honest, like nobody knew. Like,
do you like the Eagles?
Not enough to want to go see them. Like I shouldn't say that. I would go see them, but not enough to say like I would like go out of my way to make sure. Like I wouldn't drive 5-6 hours to go see them. If they were like at SPAC or at Montreal and someone's like, "Hey, you want to go up and watch the Eagles?" I would go watch them. Yes, but not. They wouldn't be one of my true big bands. I would like really splurge on.
Okay.
Man, I don't know. I think because I've been lucky enough to see a lot of the ones that I've grown up listening to. So I've hit quite a bit. To be honest, it would be going back in time to some of the older bands. And to be honest, I've been on a big. I don't know if you saw the movie or not. I always liked them.
Queen. I knew exactly where you're going.
Yeah, and I
so good.
I have them.
Haven't seen the movie, but
You haven't?
no, but such a good band.
You got to go see the movie.
People don't give Queen enough credit, man.
Amazing.
If you go through a
Amazing.
top song list, top hit list for Queen,
Amazing.
all of a sudden you'll be like, just like our conversation about the Police, you'll be like, oh man, yeah, I love this song. I didn't realize that was Queen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one too. Oh yeah.
And what's funny is when I think you get I know obviously there's some fictional, not to say fictional, but it's not everything. You're getting it in a movie format, but like when you kind of watch the parts and stuff, and all of a sudden you go back and like listen to some lyrics, you're like, oh, that makes sense now. Because a lot of those old bands, I don't have the context. I don't know when, I heard them well past their prime. So when they start talking about stuff, I'm like, oh, wait, they grew up there. Oh, this is where they formed. This is where, and you start kind of connecting the dots lyrical wise with the music. I've always been a Queen fan since I was, again, 70s, 80s. Like, I mean, they're obviously going into the 80s, but big 75 to 80 probably. Always liked their music, and then all of a sudden, this came out, so it kind of like you get back into it, and you're like, man, I forgot how many songs they actually have that, again, were on my iPod, but, back in high school, that was what I was listening to. You got to see the movie, though.
I got to do it.
Did you watch any of the movies, the Oscar movies? Are you a big movie guy like that?
Lauren does not particularly love going to the movies.
Okay.
She sees it as a time suck, which is fine. But she also, in her defense, has used a lot of film in her classes that she's teaching. She uses she teaches diversity through film, which that's
I'm gonna tie into this. Keep going.
Yeah. So that's a phenomenal class, and I haven't taken it, but I've been exposed to the content through talking with her, throughout each semester, and they show film clips as a way to try and engage students in conversation about tough things to talk about as they relate to diversity, and it's a good way to get into that conversation in a healthy way rather than a combative way. But anyhow, so she's done that for years, right? So she doesn't get excited about movies. I feel like you're ready to transition from this, but you asked the question about if I saw any Oscar movies. I did see, oh my God, why am I forgetting what it's called? With Lady Gaga. This is embarrassing.
A Star is Born.
Yes.
I didn't see that, but I know the title.
Honestly, phenomenal. Really good. I wasn't sure what to expect, and
it's a remake off an old movie.
It's a remake. I think it's the third remake. I think there was a.
So it's kind of like
a remake from a remake. Yeah. But anyhow, movie was awesome, and I gained a lot of respect for Lady Gaga actually. But anyhow, where were we going to go?
Well, when you had mentioned movies, I saw two. So I saw Queen or Bohemian Rhapsody. The other one that I saw, which I think if Lauren hasn't seen this, she should 100% show it to her class, is The Green Book. Did she watch that at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the whole premise of The Green Book is actually fun fact too, Viggo Mortensen is in it.
St. Lawrence grad.
Yeah, you knew that. I was about to say
did I
that.
steal you?
No. Well, you kind of did, but yeah, he did, and I didn't realize that. He's from Watertown.
I met Viggo.
Did you? That's cool.
At St. Lawrence. I was literally in between class, super stressful day, and they have this little place in the student center called the Pub, and I popped in to grab a coffee real quick before going to class, and sure as shit, I look over and look who's pouring himself a coffee.
Oh, you recognize him just like that?
Yeah, he shaved and like didn't have, he's harder to recognize when he's like all clean cut because he was very, but I think he was there for like a fundraising trustees thing or whatever. He comes in periodically to help him raise money, but
yeah.
I didn't really talk to him, but I did like go over and shake his hand, like, hey, nice job in Lord of the Rings kind of thing. And
yeah,
I don't think he was very amused, because I'm sure he gets that a lot.
Yeah.
He's probably sick of it. But
yeah.
I didn't mean it,
Yeah, I mean...
But he's, when he gets... Everybody's just constantly like, oh, yeah, I loved you in Lord of the Rings. It's like, I'm sure it gets old.
Well, in the movie, I don't know, I think he gained some weight for the movie. I could be wrong, because I did not recognize him at all the entire movie. Until the end, when the credits came on and said he was the guy that did it, I'm like, that was Viggo Mortensen. But so he's in it. I forgot the guy's name. It's like something Ali Mahasala or something.
Mm-hmm.
He was in House of Cards. He was Remy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Remy, right, in House of Cards. Phenomenal actor. And the whole premise of it is the Green Book is basically where black people could stay in the South, like hotels. So they had a Green Book. Basically, this is...
And Viggo was like his agent or something.
His driver.
Okay.
So I'm going to call him Ali's his last name, but he is a musician, a very, very talented musician. And without going too much into all the details, this takes place back in probably I want to say the 60s, 50s, 60s. So,
Mm-hmm.
Race relations obviously weren't great, and, kind of like the Civil Rights Act kind of time. And basically what happened was he wanted to do a tour of music through the Deep South, and he needed a driver. And basically Viggo Mortensen's character applies for the position. And to put it in perspective, it's a white man driving for a black guy in 1950s, 60s, from the north all the way down to the Deep South.
True story?
True story.
Wow.
And one of those movies that's like, it's like any other movie. As it gets going, it builds and builds and builds and builds and like really grows on you to the point where like you get really invested in the characters, and it's a tearjerker in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I would 100,000%.
The Green Book.
The Green Book. Watch it. Anybody that's out there, watch it. It is phenomenal. I think it won Best Picture this year, rightly so.
I think you're right.
It was a phenomenal movie. I only saw Bohemian Rhapsody and The Green Book, but I, again, love Queen, but if I had to pick between the two, I thought The Green Book was a better movie, just overall. The storyline, the characters. But have Lauren watch it, and 100% that would line up with her class like peanut butter and jelly. It would be great. So I think she would really enjoy that movie. If you guys, I'm sure it's out. You could stream it somehow now. Okay. So, but watch The Green Book. You guys will really enjoy it. So, kind of transitioning, I guess, since we talked about our love of music for an hour, which is fine. That was good.
Love it.
I get to nerd out with you on some music, which most people don't like listen to that, but I think you have an appreciation for good music. So what I wanted to ask you a little bit about, we had talked about this prior to getting on. What is potentially your new project, venture, hobby, thing that you want to take on?
Well, first off, I think you are aware of it, but on the side, kind of for fun, I have a little sole proprietorship called Rondack Chairs and Furniture.
I got to put this in the show notes. I got to get better at show notes.
So no, it's good. Rondack Chairs and Furniture. I make... You're
Mr. Rondack.
I'm Mr. Rondack. I make handcrafted Adirondack-themed furniture. Primarily, I call it the Rondack chair. It's basically a take on the Adirondack chair, but this sucker, when I can make it to my best liking is it'll last you forever. It's beautiful and it folds up. But the next thing that I'm doing in addition to Rondack Chairs and being an insurance broker is I'm exploring the idea of sitting in your seat and starting a podcast for more business conversations. This feels very Rogan-esque, and I like that a lot. I like how it just kind of goes into tangents and sucks you in. I feel like I end up listening to a lot more podcasts that are like that than something that's really structured and focused on a particular topic. But I feel like our region, and me in particular with my MBA, I feel like that could be a cool outlet that doesn't overlap with what you and our friend Matt Craig with Craig Cast are
friend
doing.
of the show, Craig Cast.
And of course there's admittedly I have not listened to much of it, but there's also Why Wait Innovate from Matt Waite
with Matt, yeah.
and I've heard great things about his podcast as but
he's been doing I met him actually for the first time at a chamber event a couple weeks ago, and he's been doing it for about a year.
Long time. He's got the backing of North
Volume.
North Media Volume.
North Volume
Media. Sorry for butchering that, Damien.
You had all the names right. You had all the words right. Yeah.
But that's a legit operation.
Yeah, he does very well.
But I don't want to overlap with anybody. I think podcasting in general is a phenomenal outlet, especially in the way we're going. I'm seeing this trend of we're all kind of gravitated towards our mobile devices, our cell phones, our smartphones, and screen time, and like engaging with video and access to pretty much the entire world from our hand in our smartphone. But I also see this trend of kind of getting a little more back to audio. And I know you film your podcast, which is really sweet. I know a lot of the national men and women that do podcasts do that. Like Rogan, he films his if you want. But I personally love the pure just audio. Pop it in the car when I'm driving or wherever. There's something cool about that art form and long form conversation where people can really go deep on a topic. And I think people are exposing themselves to more substance and quality when they listen to podcasts in general, especially these longer form ones, than just the typical soundbite that we're kind of getting used to. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I feel like there might be a place for a business-focused podcast in our area. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Obviously, I love podcasts. I'm as pro podcast as you can get, and I've been listening to them for a few years now. And particularly long form, meaning, will I listen to a half-hour podcast? Sure. I mean, I'm not against it if the quality's there or people like the person hosting it's there. But I've mentioned his name 1,000 times because I think he's become kind of the pioneer, not say pioneer, but basically a big A-lister in podcasting with Joe Rogan. I like the longer form. I like where it can go. I mean, on a shorter podcast, we're not talking about our favorite bands and music and drumming for an hour. But here, I'd even have that down, really. I as anybody knows, it's very non-scripted. I have a couple things down that if we kind of get off topic or kind of beat a topic to death, we transition. But I mean, we didn't really discuss much. About 2 minutes before we went on, hey, what do you want to? Let's jot down some themes that we can talk about, and that's pretty much it. So it really allows a conversation to take over a life of its own. So that was when I went into doing the podcast. I had really no idea of what I want. I had an idea and I didn't. I actually wanted to originally do a business podcast where I brought in people, talk to them, in different, owners of companies or different, specialties or different areas. And to be honest, there will be some of that on here but I've ended up transitioning, and I thought about this prior to getting into the whole podcasting thing, was what do I really want? What do I really want to do with the podcast, and how do I really want to? I want to do it that it's fun for me. Meaning, like I want it. It's kind of like everything I do. Like my job, love it, and I just really dive into stuff, and I try to make it a hobby, something that I can take on. So this is a hobby for me. But then I'm like, how do I want to go about it? Do I want to make it just a real estate podcast? Do I want to make it just talking with people? And then I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but my whole thing when I did it was I really want to go down a route that I really like. And my whole thing was, it's not any type of title, job, background. It's just I want to talk to, and I think I have it in my description, people that I find interesting. And that's it. That's the only theme of the show. There's nothing else. There might be like gradually some themes as we get into it, like, some intro. Like we've talked about having you come on in different aspects of like with different people. We won't go into your background. Like it'll just be like turn the mic on and just let's shoot the shit. But I really think like for me, I think we're up to 16 right now, people. There's people from all backgrounds. There's people from that are in business. There's people that are in whatever. There's people I've met before and I've known them for years. There's people that I meet them as they walk through the door. I just kind of people that I find interesting or I want to talk to. And there's some people that I've known forever that, to be honest, great friends or whatever, but don't really want to have a longer form conversation with them. Not in a negative way, but just it's not really kind of how we gel or vibe. Where I find I talk very good with you. I've had some great guests on that every time I talk to them, I just have very long, thought-provoking conversations that I enjoy. I just like that form of medium. But I think from what I've seen, like if you ever go on like of course I did this after I started the podcast, so it kind of was stepping back in time the wrong way. But what is like best practices for a podcast? And they're like, we'll do this, 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 and this. And like I did probably 2 of those, which was basically like get a mic and that was about it. They were like, hey, have a theme, get your guest list. And I really didn't do that. It was more like I got the equipment. I called up Matt and I said, Matt Craig, founder of Craigcast. I called Matt and basically said, hey, can you come on? I had no clue what I was doing. And literally we went a full month of just recording because I didn't know how to edit anything. So I had like 5 or 6 episodes recorded before we ever mixed them up and put them out, just because I didn't know how to do it. So I had to take that time to learn it. But one of the main things they talk about is have a niche or kind of go down a niche market. Like if yours is, business people in, let's say, Clinton County or upstate New York, or just business people in general, you could really go anywhere with that. But it keeps a little bit more structure. Mine might be a little bit all over the place. I don't know, because I can grab anybody really and talk to them, but it doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent. It's just, for me, that was what I wanted to do. I just wanted to talk to people I wanted to talk to. So some of it is good conversations where it's like I say more thought-provoking, or it's 5 guys, 1 mic, and we literally sat for 2 hours and just made fun of each other and talked about anything that came up and anything, where our minds wandered. So I don't know. I don't think there's one that's either good or bad. I think there's definitely a small niche of people up here. And as I've gotten into it, I've kind of like met people or heard of people doing podcasts. I honestly, when I got into podcasting, I knew of Matt's podcast, and that was pretty much it. I knew a little bit of North Volume,
Matt
what they were
Wade.
doing. I think I knew of his, and then I knew of
there's Trashberg,
which I didn't know about until
honestly
a month
until
ago. I think Matt Craig told me about him.
What is it? Matt Hall was on Craigcast.
Yeah, and I've never met him, but I've listened to him with Matt, and he's a
interesting
good speaker.
dude.
Good speaker
Interesting
too.
Dude. Yeah.
And then I had Ryan. Gotta pronounce his name correctly. I butchered it for him, and he corrected me, but he's a good dude. Ryan Guanup. He does Slop Dog Radio. Never heard of it until literally I knew his girlfriend, and she said, hey, you should get my boyfriend his podcast. I'm like, oh, what does he do? So it's kind of funny how once you get in this niche, you learn other people.
Who the other players are locally.
Yeah, well, I met Matt, and he's been doing it. He said he's on like 50 or 60 shows right now, and he's been very consistent. There were a couple girls that were doing podcasts at one point. They've kind of stopped. but they were doing it through that North Volume. But they, they haven't done one in a few months. But so there's a few that have done it. I don't know how many are in Plattsburgh. I don't know how many are in Clinton County. I'm sure there's more than I can think of. But really, there's I'd say Craig Cass, Matt Waits, and then the Trash Burger, kind of the main ones that I've heard of, and Slop Dog Radio. So there's probably more, but you're going to find as you get into it, you're going to know who has them. And it's kind of cool. You can listen to them, and they're local people, so they're bringing on local people. And it's really starting to take off a little bit. And we were at a event the other day, and somebody mentioned listening to the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You don't know who's actually listening to these things. So, I mean, I don't know. I think if I had to pick a business-run podcast, I think would be pretty cool.
I feel like it would take more prep than this, obviously, because we're just shooting the shit, man. We're going into some good, thought-provoking conversation, but there was just a brief 5-minute outline, and then you go. So, I'm recognizing that as a potential time investment that I would have to make. But I also don't necessarily want it to be structured to the point where it's every episode is 45 minutes or an hour. I'd want it to be able to go into deeper conversation in a business setting, because I think my goal would be to provide a podcast that sort of extends what I've been trying to do as the president of ADKYP. And so, I've been part of that organization for a long time. And, for those who don't know what ADKYP is, it's acronym for Adirondack Young Professionals. And
a great organization.
Great organization.
Yep.
And our goal is, at its core, to retain young people to the North Country, greater Plattsburgh area, because that is the future of this area. That's the future of the economy. That's the future of everything. Right? And if we can't keep people excited about living here, building meaningful connections and professional relationships, they're going to leave. And so that's kind of what that organization is trying to do. But my time as president is also sort of coming to a close here soon. I've done it for 3 years, and it's been a great run. But I think it's healthy to have some transition, and I need to move away and do something else. I'll still be part of that organization and support them as an advisor and have that institutional knowledge and stuff. Definitely not going to go away, but I see a business podcast where I'm meeting with really interesting business owners, whether it's a small flower shop on the corner or, the CEO of a major company in town or in the region, to really provide young people, who I assume would probably be the dominant listening audience, I don't know, with something that they can listen to that gets them excited about the opportunity that they have. That would probably be my goal, but I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know if we necessarily want to burn all our podcast time tonight on planning that out, but because I don't know if anybody listening would find that interesting and just listen to us brainstorm. I think that would be a pretty meaningful podcast if you could actually meet that objective.
Well, I think the two reasons why I think you'd be good at it or would succeed at that level is, one, a lot of people through Boy Scouts, through what you've been doing. Very active, obviously, with different organizations and things. So you have, I would say, a large Rolodex of people that you could refer to, and that I think would easily be welcoming to do something with you in that respect. And I just think that you are organized enough, professional enough, and I think you really understand the medium, not to just kind of get up and just. I find myself, I'm kind of raw in this, meaning I'm not very polished of a interviewer. I'm not the greatest with words. My vocabulary is limited. I'm not a very scholar. I can barely pronounce stuff. So scholarly.
You're doing that on purpose right now.
No, I'm not. If anybody knows me, I have a hard time with those long. That's why when I say I'm very limited, my vocabulary limit is very limited. Like scholarly. I have a hard time pronouncing words.
That's like my wife in dish soap. She hates saying dish soap.
Dish soap.
Yeah, it's like dish soap.
Dish soap.
Yeah. Anyhow, she's going to be really pissed I said that.
We'll cut that out.
Yeah.
We'll cut that out. No, I think you'll be good. I think you're very well-read, intelligent peer. I was gonna say young man, peer. And but I think you have a lot of connections. I think there would be a good spin-off. I would listen to it because I respect both. I respect the podcast format, and I like obviously the business aspect of it because that's kind of the space I'm in, and I think you would do well. It's fun. I think that's the thing. If you have I don't look at it as a drag. Like, I've never come to one of these podcasts and been like, I actually get excited for them because I just find they're fun.
Oh, yeah, this is awesome.
It's weird. It's because the funny thing about podcasts is that's what people do in life is talk. They've been doing it since caveman time, whatever. But there's something fun about sitting down, like, no phone, just chit-chatting about topics that I'm sure now you would agree 100% with me. We don't get a lot of long-form talking throughout the day.
Like, I think sound bites, man. Our whole life has become a sound bite. Read the headline, but don't read the article. Watch the news and get the 2-minute version of the whole story. It's long-form conversation. You got to train your ear. Like, when I first started listening to long-form, it took me a while before I really got into it. But the first one that really sucked me in, and I knew I was bought in on podcasting, was Joe Rogan talking with Elon Musk. Those dudes talked for like over 3 hours, I think. I could listen to that over and over again in the car. That was the most phenomenal conversation, and it really opened my eyes to what a long-form conversation does. And it's your responsibility, I feel, as the listener, to buckle your seatbelt and listen to it, commit to it. It's hard because we're all used to like, this particular section, I'm not interested. So we all have short attention spans. But I feel like as a podcast listener, it's all of our responsibility. If you're gonna go in on a podcast, man, commit to it and listen to the whole thing, because you never know if 15 seconds later there's going to be something life-changing that's discussed that changes your whole perspective on a topic or a political issue or a way to better yourself. There's just so much that can be gained from buckling your seatbelt and listening to the whole thing. And that's what I got from Joe Rogan and Elon Musk. That was phenomenal.
That was my all-time favorite podcast. I've listened to a ton, but I mean that one by far. If you haven't, go back. It probably was like 4 or 5 months ago.
Joe, if you're listening to the Gaelan Trombley show,
I think he actually I think he gave me a shout out at his last.
That would be sweet. Just so you know, Gaelan, myself, you and Elon. If we just want to have a couple beers, dude, that'd be sweet. I'd buckle up for that one.
We'd buy you a ticket here. We'd have you come into our studio. We know yours is cool, but it's cozy here.
Yeah,
it's cozy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. To be honest, Elon probably just drive right through the core and get here in 20 minutes. So.
Yeah. Anyhow, I don't know. I mean, not to keep beating a dead horse here, but like the idea of a business related podcast, I think would be cool. I need to put more thought into it, but I'm almost there. I'm almost bought in. And I think what it would also do for a lot of young people in the area is I've been very privileged and very fortunate to fall into some luck with that. You referenced a Rolodex. I was very lucky to fall into that executive job with the Boy Scouts, because that forced me to be a leader of my organization amongst leaders of organizations
at
across
a very young age too.
Across our age, yeah. I had to clean up and make myself polished and public speak and raise money and manage a board and go toe to toe with a lot of business leaders in our area. And a lot of people don't get that, but like, because I got that, I feel like I really benefited from that, and for no other reason than just the luck of that opportunity. But I feel like sharing those conversations in a conversation like this, where anybody who's interested about the life of the local CEO or the local business owner that's got, otherwise maybe assumed as like a hard to contact person because of their status in the community. Like, if I could get them in a conversation and provide that to everyone locally and especially the young people, I feel like that could be cool. I don't know. But it's all luck, man. I just fell into that, and I think that's life. You fall into some opportunities and you either bail out of it or you make the most of it. And I feel like I tried to make the most of it.
I have a couple things. So like one, like the serendipity of meeting people, of events happening. Like a lot of it is, I talk about. I just had this conversation the other day. It's like I always talk about like what's the ROI of something. Now it doesn't mean like I know input in, input out, but like what's the ROI of me going to the event last night, talking to a bunch of people.
EDKYP speed networking.
Speed networking event, yep. Why am I going to that event? Am I going to go in my profession? Am I going to go? Obviously, yes. Can they all buy homes? 100%. What's funny though is that I went probably 2 years ago, roughly. I kind of got in with you and Matt. Were the first ones that kind of. Actually, no, I'm not. Matt was not. I met Matt there. I think it was you and a couple of the people I knew. I was like nervous to go. I'm not a very. I've grown into being way more social than I was.
Networking's hard.
I was a true introvert and still am a true introvert. And it was kind of funny. I was talking to somebody today about it. I walked in last night. I do this anytime I go into a big room. And most people that look at me and they probably think I'm like super like extroverted. Like it comes super natural to me. I get anxiety every time I go to an ADKYP event, if I go to a chamber event. I've got to the point where I've gotten out of my car at a chamber event, like been walking to the door, and in my head the whole time was like 50-50 about turning around just going home. Just because like social anxiety of not, which I know it sounds weird, but
it's a real thing for most people.
I've never been, it's just it's not natural for me. Obviously, I've never had a time where I've walked into one of those events and been mad that I didn't turn around and leave. It's all like the right step is always to go because like you always have a good time, you meet somebody, people I know that are there, but I still to this day have that like knotted up feeling. Even last night, and I knew probably 80% of the people that were going to be there, I still get that nervous feeling. It's just something I've slowly kind of pushed down or like back of my mind or down to my gut kind of thing where I'm now more open than I used to be. But I used to 3 years ago is when I started going to those things, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So to think about it, I've been in for 9 years. It took me like 6 years to even get over the hump to go to those events. So, but when you talk about bringing on like different people, I think that's fascinating because I'm, again, just getting to the point where I'm starting to feel myself be a peer with somebody that's a 55-year-old business owner.
Yes.
I'm not.
It's a dynamic shift.
Yeah. And it was in my head, like I'm, like I said, just getting to it. When I was starting in the business, like why couldn't I go to an event and talk to somebody that was 50 years old and as a 23-year-old and had a conversation? I didn't. I was just in my mind mentally. It was just like a paradigm that I was just too young. I wasn't in that. Like they're not going to want to talk to me. I don't want to go to the chamber event. And there's going to be maybe one other person that's my age, and I'm just going to feel super out of place. That's the farthest thing. To be honest, those people that are 50s and 60s love talking to the younger kids. Because I think it's their way of giving back. Or
they're also always looking for new talent, probably.
And that too, yeah. So there's a lot of give and take. Like I have a lot to gain from somebody that's been in business for 30 years. And to be honest, we just had it before you came on the show. I'm sitting here teaching people about technology. Everybody needs each other, but I think when you have the business perspective, if you can, I think that's a big thing, like kind of take down that persona. Maybe that's just something I mentally have in my head, but I'm sure other people do, that someone that's 60 years old, that's in our area super successful, does a lot, somebody that I probably would not talk to just because I have in my head thinking they would not ever want to talk to me kind of deal, or would have nothing in common, or I would be basically a burden on their day kind of deal. And I really had this thought until probably like 3 years ago. And then all of a sudden I was just like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to be more myself and just go and meet people. And it's been the best thing. Like, I've met some phenomenal people. But, you know, I think you being able to go bring that down and kind of put it out on a very level playing field where I think people can kind of open up, chit chat, talk. I would get a lot out of it because I'd be like, oh man, that guy's really cool. And then now you have something in common. Like, I can talk to, if I run into him, be like, hey, you were on Ryan's podcast, listen to it. It's really
exactly.
cool. And I think that's a good icebreaker. And kind of what you said, like a informal, hey, Jim, this is Mike. Mike, this is Jim. It's kind of like an informal way of doing that through, I guess, kind of like voice and audio and technology, where you're kind of bringing this conversation out to, you know, dozens or hundreds of people that may be listening, which I think is kind of it's a cool way to reach people, but it's a cool way just to kind of be a fly on the wall situation.
Exactly. A fly on the wall, listening to a conversation that would be very intimidating for a young person to try and engage in, because I was there. Like, you know, I wouldn't want to be one-on-one with some of these people I have in mind when I was a lot younger, fresh out of college. But because I was forced into it, I grew from it. So how can I share that, right?
Well, I think you're, for our age-wise, I think you're probably the best that I know at it, to be truthful, because I've seen you at multiple gigs. I saw you at a year or two ago when we went to the Boy Scout dinner with some pretty VIP type people, I would say, in our area, in regards to like some Congress people and some, you know, high up business owners and things like that. And you're up there basically emceeing the event as 27-year-old, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and then I've seen you, obviously you run the 80KYP, you're up there kind of getting people to mingle and talk. And I think that there's a lot to be said by that, which I think would translate into being in this role of bringing people on, where I think people would kind of come in and have that like comforting feeling of like, hey, you know, Ryan's a good dude. I know him. He's very good speaker, very good at conversation, very good at, I mean, just everything that you'd want kind of in a host of a podcast, like someone that could allow you to.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'll give you one word of advice, because this happened to me. And this happened to Matt, and I know Matt will agree. Matt was shooting around the idea to me about a year prior to him ever starting. Both of us, I guarantee he was thinking about it well before he ever mentioned it to me. I had been thinking about doing a podcast for a solid probably year and a half. Matt eventually did it, was the first one to kind of like jump on the moon kind of thing.
Yep.
And then I remember I had a conversation. I went to Matt. I had it on my whiteboard forever to start a podcast. Didn't do it. Went chit-chatted with Matt for one day, and I was telling him, like, I kept telling him just to start it. And I'm like, why am I telling Matt to start it? And here I am not taking my own advice. I swear to God, I drove from his office to here, which is about a 5-minute drive. And within a half hour, I had ordered everything. It was being shipped to my house. And I was just like, just start. And within a week, I had got the stuff set up and recorded the first one, which was with Matt. So go back and listen to it and see how unpolished that is. So my whole thing to you, as I know you're thinking about it, is just like, go home tonight, just order stuff and start. Because I think that's a lot of it is, you know, if you're thinking, because I think you're already to the point where you're going to do it. It's just more of like, just do it and just start.
Yeah, and I have some bare bones equipment that I could probably even use, like if I wanted to record a podcast tonight, which I wouldn't, but if I wanted to, I could. I've got a MacBook, great software on it. I've got a preamp that logs in from 2 different inputs that I could hook up mics to, which I have 2 mics. They're not nice mics like yours, but they
have a couple more covers you can steal. So,
but they're mics that would certainly do the job, and I've run some testing on them, and they sound okay to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I just want to make sure I understand my focus and how I want to run it. But I think you're right too. I think I need to just do it. But here's the big question, and maybe this is fun. I don't know if you have comments on YouTube or what. Like if people are still hanging in there with us.
Not yet, potentially.
And
as we get a low battery signal on my phone.
Yeah, sticking with it. But what would you call it? What would you call it? I don't know. This is the part that I'm struggling the most with. But
you're coming. Okay, I'm probably the worst
and
guy
I
to
know
ask this.
on your first one you were like, "Screw it, I'm just doing it," and you didn't even have your name
Nothing
done yet. You just started recording, and you figured out the name later, which was super creative. The Gaelan Trombley show.
The Dave Matthews Band.
I don't even know where you came up with that. That's so creative, but.
It took a while. It was actually, I really kind of.
I'm partial to not using my name unless it's like maybe a subtitle, so like with Ryan Lee, something with Ryan Lee. But I feel like I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to put my name as the main title. So that's not me.
I have a name. I have a name for you, but I think what.
Don't say Lee Cast. Because Craig Cast.
No. So yeah, that was the other thing when I said just start. I'm always kind of big on just starting stuff, knowing that it's not going to be polished, knowing that it's not going to be what I ultimately want it to be at. But everything's going to evolve. This is going to evolve. It's going to get better. It's already gotten better. I already am more comfortable. I've done 16 of these now. The first few were. Matt's was very just like, oh, we're going to kind of make this up as we go. And then the second one got better, and the third one got a little bit better. Or at least I felt better, more comfortable doing it. Name-wise, though, I think if you listen, I think the first 3 or 4 episodes, I asked each guest what the name of the show should be. And I don't think it was till episode 5 or 6 that I actually had the original, I had the Gaelan Trombley show, even though that was one of my first few picks. The reason I did it, partly because I'm not creative, but the other part was that for me, with a lot of the stuff I do and with kind of branding wise and stuff, it just was a good it was a good supplement to what everything else I was doing. And this honestly could be like my big platform versus the other stuff that I do. I do a lot of video and things, but the name. That's why I went with it. For you, name-wise, I don't think you need one before you start. This is what I do, and I think actually a couple places you can't actually put a podcast up until you have like 4 or 5 episodes in. I think that's actually kind of like
you pre-record 5 to
I did
6,
and I want to say Matt did 6 or 7.
And you're just ready. You got a pipeline of stuff you can post, and it doesn't put the pressure on that you have to keep up with it right away.
I don't know if I think Matt actually told me that. The reason I waited was, I didn't know how to edit. So really, I was like, I can record stuff all day long. I don't really know how to edit and actually put it out for people to listen to. That took a little bit of research. And then 2 was Matt just said, hey, this is what you should do, because if you only put one episode out and people want to listen to it, and all of a sudden you got one episode and that's all people can listen to, you kind of lose that momentum where you want to kind of let them kind of catch up over a week if they like it, and then all of a sudden kind of drip some out as, once a week or whatever.
Exactly.
So for you, I think the good thing about it right now is you can record for a month of people, do 1 a week or 2 a week or 1 every 2 weeks, whatever you find your cadence of what you think you can time-wise commit to. Stay consistent. That's the biggest thing. If you don't stay consistent, it just kind of like loses that fire. You know what I mean? It kind of, or you kind of, it's like you're going downhill and then all of a sudden you kind of hit a little uphill and you lose momentum. So I think the name you can kind of hold off on. I mean, I've even said it in my podcast. Like, I don't have a name for the show. I don't have a name for this thing or episode or whatever. But that will naturally come. My suggestion to you, which I think would be really cool, is just Mr. Rondack. I think that's dope. Like, if you don't want to use your name, but I think that's really cool, because then it'd be like, because it ties into your business, but it's kind of like, it's a play on words, and people from the North Country are like, it's kind of like, you wouldn't use like Adirondack Coast, but like, I just think like the Rondack podcast or like Mr. Rondack. The Rondack podcast would be sweet, and then you could just be Mr. Rondack. Rondack.
Or Let's Talk Business with Mr. Rondack or something.
I don't even see. I don't even think
that's
you gotta
too much. Yeah,
it's too much of a mouthful. I think if you just go the Rondack Show or the Rondack Podcast,
it connects something I'm working on as a side fun thing. But I don't see how Rondack. Well, I don't know.
Has nothing to do.
It has nothing to do with the actual the theme of the show, but it does cross pollinate some other things I'm working on. Yeah, that's interesting.
But like Craigcast though has nothing. It's Matt's name. The Matt's podcast. Why Wait? I think is a play on his last name, right?
Innovate. Why Wait? Innovate.
Why Wait? Okay, so
which gives you a little indicator, but
yeah, but it's not much of a mouthful. Like it's a very quick. That's the thing. Like I even think like the Gaelan Trombley show was like too much of a mouthful. That is partly because my name has a lot of syllables in it total. But I think if you did something, I think like the Rondack podcast or the Rondack show or the Rondack podcast would be pretty cool because you are Mr. Rondack, and I think because it's a fun play on words because you're also in the upstate New York area. I think it has a good. I just like that. I like that vibe. I think it has a cool name. I think you do a lot with like the graphic of it.
It gives me room to deviate if I need to.
Yeah, I think you know what? That's the one thing I didn't want to do with this. I didn't want to wedge myself into it's a real estate podcast because then all of a sudden it's like, well, I want to talk to Ryan about music. No, I've already gone down that rabbit hole of I'm a real estate podcast. Now, could I have somebody come on here and talk all real estate? I mean, we have that with Ellie. You know, Realty Talk is 100% real estate based, but
that's cool, by the way.
Yeah, it's just I do need something real estate because that's what I know most about. It's kind of like, you know, I don't know.
I could steal that idea and do insurance talk 10 minutes.
Or woodworking or whatever. I think there's a lot of merit to all that, but I think you can play off of you could do the Rondack show, the Mr. Rondack show. I want to say Mr. I think it's a lot, but I think the Rondack show would be cool, and then Mr. Rondack, Ryan Lee, you know, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I think you could go into, then you break that down and say, hey, you know, under the Rondack channel or the Rondack podcast or the Rondack experience or whatever you want to call it, you could have a little like mini segments of, hey, this is a Woodworking Wednesday. And you just talk about wood for 15 minutes. Just do a quick, no, I mean like, some people would want to listen. I mean, it'd be like, hey, this is, you know, I was doing my Rondack chairs. I've been trying to do this, or hey, I came up with a new, you know, kind of a new technique that I think would be neat, or something I tried, or a new piece of equipment that I bought. I think there's a lot of different avenues that you could branch off, but I wouldn't. My opinion is I want to pigeonhole yourself from the start by saying I'm only going to do something. I think your base could be on business. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do just say, I just want to do business, and I think that's it. But I think the Rondack would be cool because it ties in your small business to the area.
Yep. No, there's a connection there. There's the entrepreneurial start from the ground up. I don't want Rondack Chairs and Furniture to become my full-time job.
Yeah, it's a hobby thing for you.
But it does also connect to that entrepreneurial spirit of how do you run a business, and and then you connect that with people who have crushed it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the ballers.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I think something on that. I would put Rondack in it. I just think that's
okay.
You're starting.
I'm with you.
You're starting to you're going down that path, and I think it's a great path to go down. I think you've had some success, and obviously the quality is good.
Connects everything together.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'll let you stew on that, but I think you're.
Yeah, the chairs I made for your parents are
like prototype 1 and 2.
They're frankly shit compared to what I've been able to make now. But
I think I paid you for what they were worth then at the time too. So I think you gave me a good discount on it. So
easy now.
We'll call it. Like I said, they were prototypes. I think they came right off of the ground floor.
Are they still functional? Do they still fold, or are they just shit?
There was a little bit of an issue, I think, when the weather kind of changed, because I think there was something but we ended up kind of just sanding down a couple things, and I think they work fine.
Okay. Well,
so like I said,
I do home calls if I need to go fix it. And tweak them up or upgrade them.
Well, like I said, this was very, very much the.
It's like an iPhone. It goes to shit because they make it go down to shit, and then you change the battery.
You purposely made it last for a summer, so then every year he's got to come and make a service call and
do FaceTime.
Yep, every May, around Memorial Day, he comes in and
retention of a customer.
Yeah, he just checks the screws and make sure everything's good. So no, I think you're onto something. I feel confident that you could pull this off, which is good. I think you'd have fun doing it, which I think is the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's fun. It really is. One of the things was you get to meet a lot of people, and it's funny the amount of people. This has been going on for, less than 2 months. I've been doing this. Like, actually, I'd say I'm going on month 3 of actually interviewing people, but it's only been public for less than 2 months. And the amount of random people, like people I know or maybe don't even know that have mentioned, hey, I've listened to the podcast. Hey, I like your podcast. Hey, whatever with the podcast is kind of cool. And it's a conversation starter for one. And then a lot of them is like, I might have met them and they mentioned, I'm like, actually, you'd be kind of fun to have on the podcast. Like, and they're like, yeah, I will do it. I actually had one girl that's coming on, and she was funny because I said, would you ever do a podcast? I know a little bit about her, but not a ton. And just a nice girl, local girl, and she's I think would be a fun person to talk to. And she actually kind of said, she's like, oh my God, yeah. She goes, I've listened to a couple of them, they're great. And I go, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know she listened to them. And then 20 minutes later, she sent me a text. She goes, you know what? I was actually thinking the other day, if I was ever on that podcast, what would I drink? And I was like, typically we have I think that actually started back when I had I think me and Matt had coffee the first time, which anybody that knows me knows I'm a sucker for coffee. But I think me and Megan, who was episode 2, had a bottle of wine that we basically took down that day. And then we've had a few others. I had Ryan Gwinup, who's a big, oddly enough, a Genesee beer guy. But he brought they were out where we went, which I'm happy. So he ended up bringing a Switchback, which was a much finer choice in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know, like Switchback?
Oh man, Genesee, that'd be the end of me.
Well, that's his thing. He drinks them on all his things.
No disrespect, but for me, then not my thing. Well, I got a nice second fiddle here. That's
to tie this in, Ryan goes, do you want a beer? And I've been eating to my standards, very poorly over the last few months, and I've been trying to get back into the gym, and so I politely declined, but it's a really good beer. So he had me on the fence there for a split second, but Fiddlehead out of Vermont is a phenomenal.
I will never pressure you.
No, but it was good. I will hope you enjoyed the one or two that I did not have. But no, that is part of the fun. Is like I said, get a couple drinks, hang out, chit chat, have a conversation. I usually find evenings is when I do it, because usually it's kind of like happy hour time. People have kind of the day's done and just want to kind of have a drink, sit back, relax. Or I've done it early morning on a Sunday. Last one we did early in the morning on Sunday, and that's kind of fun too. Depends on the time. I do enjoy the evening ones though, the best I think. If I can get a good evening. I don't know when you'll find time that when you'll want to put it out time wise, but
yeah,
evenings are good because it's just kind of more of it's very much go to the bar, have a drink, and just kind of
hang out.
Just let your mind relax after a big day of whatever.
Yep.
I think there's something to be said about that. So, anything else you wanna bring up?
It's up to you, man. I feel like we've had a great conversation. We spent 3/4 of it on music, but that's cool.
And then the other third on podcasting.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. I think that's there was some other things which, to be honest, I will go over a couple of the topics, maybe rapid fire, but I was going to talk to you about the Rondack Chairs, which we kind of touched on a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'll put that in the show notes. But they are phenomenal. Look them up on Instagram. I'll get all the correct details from you so we can have people if they want to follow you on that. But I obviously we kind of joke about it, but the prototypes that you made a couple years ago I thought were phenomenal. They're very, to me, innovative from a sense of the folding aspect of it. And I think you've only, as we've talked, as you described the one I got or I gave my parents, they were shit, which he's being very hard on himself. They weren't that level, but I'm sure they've evolved way better at this point. So if anybody's looking to buy them, they are, I can only imagine they were I thought very good quality back then, and I'm sure they're very high quality now.
I've improved my source of lumber. I'm getting raw, rough cut cedar and just making this stuff look absolutely gorgeous. but then I'm also, and so cedar has natural oils in it that will prevent decay over time. Cedar has the ability, much better than like the pine mixture that I made your parents out of, to just last. You leave unstained, unfinished pine out, and you leave unfinished, unstained cedar out. Cedar's going to last twice as long. But then you put the finish on it too, it's going to last and look that much better. So I've got that figured out. I've got a few pieces of the folding mechanism figured out so it doesn't get stuck. There's been an issue with some of the early prototypes. They get folded up, stored off in the winter, and then they pull them out in the spring, and they're like tough to get.
Creaking a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, they're hard to unfold. And so I fixed that as well. That's why you make a prototype. But and that's also why I did that before I really launched Rondack Chairs. But yeah, that has drastically improved. So
yeah, and I check them out. They're very high quality, and I am a big proponent of supporting local companies. Kind of one of our new phrases for our company is local matters, which I truly believe is just a good catalyst for just, basically taking what we have here, being kind of a small, tight-knit area, and reinvesting in our own local neighbors, whether it be food, chairs, whatever. If you're going to buy an Adirondack chair, contact Mr. Rondack. It's locally made, guy who's grown up here all his life. So I just think that there's a lot to be said about supporting your neighbor, in especially your small business. So please check Rondack Chairs out. And on Instagram, obviously, is you can see a lot of cool designs and kind of what you're doing. I know you got a lot of progress pictures and a lot of.
We're on Facebook too.
Yes, you're on Facebook. Yep. We'll link it all up to make sure people can definitely get a hold of you. We touched on the Boy Scouts. We touched on the podcast, ADKYP. We touched on that a little bit. And actually a plug for Adirondack Young Professionals. If you're listening to this, I think we can all agree it's young at heart. But if you can, if you can go, to be a year member, it's $20, which to me is, basically stealing. It's very
super good deal.
It's a great deal. And I think we've talked about it before, and I've talked with other members that have come on that are in it. If you're listening to this and you just want to, maybe you don't know a lot of people, or you want to get to know more people, or maybe some people you're like, hey, I'm in business and I want to meet some like-minded individuals. That group of people is second to none. I think they are just great, just like individual people. And it's funny is I don't think any of us ever go there expecting to do anything business-wise. I literally think it's just like, I want to go see my friends and hang out with them tonight. So I think if you start to come to it, you'll see that everybody's super welcoming. You can talk to anybody there. They're all there with very just good vibes and good intentions. And I think you're just going to make some good friends. So I encourage anybody, if you're listening, you don't have to be a business owner or a salesperson or whatever. We have people that are in education. We have people that are in health. We have people, all these different people that are literally just making peer-to-peer connections. And I think they're all great. And if you guys can support that local organization, it is, I think, fun. I look forward to every event that is put on. So yeah, please check out ADKYP. They are on Facebook and Instagram. Check them out. And if you can, please come to our events every month. The other one is obviously podcasting. We talked about music. I think the big one that we didn't really talk about, we touched on your career, not too much of college, but I think the big one we didn't talk about, which I don't want to talk about today because I want to leave this up because I think we will have a better podcast about this, is our love of golf. Which that's what we could go.
Launch that sucker in the spring.
I think right now we're a little rusty. I know you've been taking a few cuts with the clubs in your probably other new hobby venture thing, but I don't know. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah,
that'll be later on. But
little teaser there, indoor simulator type venture
I'll call it the barn, but we know. But so we will talk about that again. I fully expect that you'll see a lot more Mr. Rondack in the future episodes. We've got a few extra mics, so that should be fun. I think we're going to have probably a podcast with more than just me and Ryan. We'll probably have a few extra of our friends come on, which I think will be a good time. And we'll probably get into golf at that point because maybe we'll bring the golf team on. You guys have actually heard of all individual people on the golf team at least once in a podcast, but it'd be fun to get everybody together.
Yep.
We'll do that at some point. I think that'll be fun, so we can keep it. Keep it to there, and that would be kind of
the story of the tripod on the second hole.
We've touched about that, but that
episode 1, episode 1 of the Gaelan Trombley show.
No, we actually didn't bring it up with him.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, we brought it up.
Episode 2.
But I think it's
Check
one
it
that
out.
somehow Matt Craig, I think, gets into 90% of my podcast at some point in time. He's like the unofficial. He's never been a repeat guest, but he's like
the mascot. Somehow
he and I always tell people too, if there's something that kind of a joke. We love Matt, great friend of the show, good, all around great dude, and basically one of the we've talked about podcasting on the side quite a bit. Just to help each other out, and what have you learned? What have you learned? What kind of tweaks here and there. And what was funny is not being a repeat guest, but he's been on multiple times, and he's kind of one of those guys that he's like, he was going to be the backup today if you couldn't make it, kind of deal. Like Matt's like in the wings, and I think once we get on this, like the whole tripod thing, we've talked about it before, but people may have not heard that episode. So when this comes on and we actually have everybody there, it'd be funny to see everybody's perspective because everybody had different thoughts when it happened. I think I was actually probably the most, out of the three of us, the most welcoming of it, in the sense I was like, that makes sense. And then obviously
you and the GD pink ball.
We talked about
losing the pink ball. I remember episode 2.
About that with,
episode 2.
Yeah, I think it was episode 2. It was either Matt or Meg, but we'll have all of them come on. I think that would be a good segue into that would be a fun one. That would be a good group.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
that'd be good.
But I think we'll stop there because honestly, I'm getting hungry, and I'm sure you're probably doing the same. Yeah. So. Actually, give yourself a plug. Where can people find you? Obviously, we will put this in the show notes, but
Yeah. So again, business owner, business leader. If you are questioning or considering your insurance needs for your business, check me out. We are at www.hbinsurance.com. But you can contact me easily through that website and our call-in service. But Hickok and Boardman Insurance, I love it. I'm nerding out on it, and absolutely loving that career choice. It's been phenomenal, great company, and our capabilities are unmatched, I feel. Maybe I'm a little biased, but we offer a lot, and so depends on what your needs are. Give us a call. If you're interested in Rondack Chairs, custom piece of furniture, or you got a special need, I'm exploring a lot of things. It's not just the Adirondack chair. We're making a lot of other little things too, just to keep things fresh. If you're interested in that, check us out. Rondack, Rondack Chairs and Furniture on Facebook or Instagram.
Perfect. So again, I want to thank Ryan for coming on. You were one of the originals that I really wanted to have on the show, so I'm glad we did. But you guys will hear more of Ryan. I always enjoy our time together, and a man of many mutual friends. So I'm sure we'll have some good group podcasts in the future, because I've actually found that as much as I like the one-on-ones, the group podcasts are fun. With multiple people.
I'm sure they're a riot.
Yeah, now we got some, we're expanding. We got some better technology. You can actually hear the headset, so I don't know if you don't watch the video, we now have, I think that's still taping. Just a sec.
Who knows?
No. Yeah. We're still moving. All
right.
So again, we do this live, so there's a little glitch, but we're all good. I think you'll still see it. So to kind of make my point is, if you can't watch us on the actual live, I say live feed, but on the feed, are just listening to us, we now all have headsets, which I think was, to me, was a big deal because I always could hear what we're hearing because I always like was using like the Apple earbud, but this actually takes away, has a little bit of noise canceling capabilities, and it allows everybody to hear what I'm hearing, so you can kind of realize if you're talking too loud or too quiet or too close to the mic or too far from the mic. So I don't know if you've experienced that before. Obviously, you have with music and stuff, but
absolutely,
it's beneficial.
It does help. Yep.
Yeah. So that's really cool. So we are trying to make this better every episode the best we can. But again, I want to thank Mr. Rondack, Ryan Lee, for joining me. Again, everything will be in the show notes. Please check him out. Please support the Rondack Chair and Furniture. He does some great work and all around super guy. So you'd be supporting a real good person in the process. So I think that's it. We will see you guys next time. So this is episode 16 of the Gaelan Trombley Show.
Sweet 16. Thanks.
Sweet 16. We're out. Thanks for listening to the Gaelan Trombley Show. If you want to reach me, you can go on Facebook at Gaelan Trombley, on Instagram at Gaelan Trombley, and on YouTube at Gaelan Trombley. The spelling, GaelanTrombley.